Good morning. Welcome to your practice, to your mat. Today, you can have a couple of blocks, a bolster, or just, some rolled up blankets, a pillow, something like that, a blanket, any kind of eye covering or whatever you like for Shavasana. And for today's class, I thought that we could bring to mind what it feels like when life feels like it's getting a little chaotic, what it feels like when we don't have as much control over our schedules as we would like, or when we feel in need really for a break. And that isn't possible due to life circumstances. Many of us are caregivers, whether that's caregivers with children, spouses, extended family members. And this role of caregiver is really tough because the people that we're caring for are not able to care for themselves. And so sometimes our needs need to be postponed because we have to care for the one that needs more care. So we're going to keep that in mind today for this practice. We can think of this as a practice to bring ourselves back home. The center, our center self, our wisest self. We sometimes can think of that as a place of intuition. That self is always there, whether we recognize it or not. And sometimes it seems like that part of us, that self it's just waiting for us to come home, to be able to set aside something, some time. And I recognize that sometimes that feels like it can't even be an hour-long yoga practice. And so before we even get started, I just want you to remember that at any time when you watch one of these recordings, you are allowed to pause wherever and say, that is enough, or that is all I can do for today, and put that aside. The important thing is that we just practice, even if it's only for a few minutes. And when we can find the time to lay out our yoga mat, even if it's only for 5 minutes, the mat itself starts to represent a refuge, and our body can remember that. So we can keep that kind of stuff in mind for today. And if you find that you are one of those people right now who is feeling like life is almost kind of getting the better of you or really challenging you, know that you're not alone in that. Okay, so enough talking. Let's find and get into our comfortable seat, which is also an intentional seat. And that means that we feel stable in the hips and the sit bones, and we feel grounded in those. It's almost like a pressing down of that as you can rise from the spine, rise from the rib cage, while keeping the belly just a little bit engaged. The crown of the head reaches toward the sky. You are broad across the collarbones and the shoulders, but the shoulders are also releasing down from the ear. And for today, it might feel good to keep the palms of the hands on the legs as a way of grounding and starting to feel back rooted into yourself. And closing the eyes, we'll begin to invite ourselves back home by returning our attention to our breath, which often comes with this automatic desire to deepen the breath, which we will follow. Notice what it feels like to let your breath really fill the lungs, all the way to those very lower lobes. And then getting a sense of that. See if you can just sense the way your diaphragm moves with the breath. And then shift your attention to the movement of the belly with the inhales and the exhales. As you're beginning to feel just the torso area filling with breath, and then releasing that breath. Letting those breaths draw your attention inward, signaling your mind to just slow down, to remember who you are, to remember your own intuition, your wisest self, knowing that that part of you can be trusted and is there for you. And then see if you can extend your exhale to be a bit longer than your inhale. If you're familiar with this, you probably can just start to sense that you're exhaling longer. If this is a newer practice, go ahead and count the length of your inhale, and then just see if you can exhale for 1, 2, 3 counts longer. Think of that extended exhale as another thing rooting you down, letting it be the anchor that brings you back home. Remembering that your breath, your life energy is yours. And even in just a few short minutes, you can use that breath to bring your whole being back into a few moments of regulation. And as we start to move a little, I'll invite you to either keep your eyes closed, or if they prefer to be open, keep them looking a little bit lower and with a soft focus, so not focusing intently on any one thing. We'll extend the arms out in front of us, interlace your fingers, press the palms away from you, thumbs down, pinkies extending. Shoulders are still away from the ears, and we have some sense that our belly is activated slightly, supporting the low back. And then with an inhalation, you're going to let the arms come up, the hands toward the sky. The gaze can follow. If that feels comfortable on your neck, make sure that you have some support behind the neck, so you're not letting your head just flop back. And then as you exhale, we'll let the arms come apart. Palms are facing down, and they come down nice and slow, almost as if they're moving through water. There's no hurry here, taking the whole exhalation. We're going to do this again, making this a movement so the arms come out, up, exhaling down several times here. Again, keep your seat nice and rooted. Feel the stability. The legs, the hips, all grounded. Coming into contact with the earth. Support of the bolster beneath you. A couple of more times like this. Linking that breath and movement, which is loved by a nervous system that is wanting to come back into balance. Okay, next time the arms come up, when we separate them, go ahead and twist to your right. Let yourself stay broad across the collarbones. The palms can go wherever is comfortable. The gaze as well. Continue thinking about the spine staying nice and long on the inhale. And as you exhale, and just imagine releasing slightly into the twist. Letting the breath move freely from the belly. Feeling the groundedness in the seats and the legs. Next inhalation, let's come to center. Exhale, going to the second side. Nice and easy breaths. Long spine on the inhale. Exhale, inviting you to release into the twist. Several more times. Perhaps a quick check-in with the face, especially the upper and lower jaw. Making sure they're released from one another. There's no tension, and that doesn't need to be there. Next inhale, arms come up. This time you'll let your right arm come down to the earth and reach with the left, coming over as much as is comfortable. Really letting your left hip come down and breathing. To feel a little bit more grounded, you can turn your gaze to the floor. Use your breath in all places that you have contact with the earth to draw you back down to your center. Next inhale, come up and switch sides. Really reaching with the fingertips while you're pressing down with the hip. Again, gaze can come toward the earth. Using those longer exhales to invite you back to your center. Inhale, coming up back to center. Release the hands down. And if you would like to, you can switch the cross of your legs. Sometimes that's nice to do, especially if you've been sitting for a while. And I'd like you to find your blocks. And you can start with them on the highest height. Okay, so we're going to fold forward. And as we think about folding forward, can kind of check in with your belly and see if it might be helpful to kind of lift and move the belly more towards center. This can help give more space, and you start to hinge forward and find your blocks. You can stretch the hands out. See how that feels. You're pressing the hips back while reaching the arms. And you can play around with different heights of the blocks to see how they feel. You're going to keep your head and neck in line with the spine, hips pressing back, fingertips reaching. While you're here, if you'd like to, you can close your eyes. Go back to those longer breaths. Really focusing on the exhale. You might notice that you have a desire to have a longer exhale. If you do, you can follow that. And then we'll take the blocks over to the right, any amount that feels comfortable to you. Pressing the left hip back. The right fingers are really moving forward or thinking about stretching forward, creating some space there. And to breathe. And we'll inhale back through center. Exhale, second side. And so this time it's the right hip pressing back, right fingers pressing forward. Some longer, slower breaths here. Next time you come to an inhale, come forward. One more time forward, pressing the hips back, fingers reaching. Head stays in line with the spine. And then as you inhale, drawing the belly in, coming back up to seated. This time we'll take the right leg forward. Toes are going to be pressing toward the sky here. And we're going to take the left knee, and that is going to face the sky. Toes are pointed forward. So we're going to twist to the right. And again, if you have some belly here like I do, you want to make some space so that your twist becomes easier. So you can play around with that. I just kind of like to lift my belly and move it out of the way as I come into the twist. So I pull the belly towards center. For me, that's what feels good. The arm can go around any amount, and then you'll take your left hand behind you any amount. Feeling the contact of the thigh to the abdomen. Notice how that feels with your breath as you inhale and exhale. A couple of more times here. Feeling free to close your eyes anytime during this practice. Closing the eyes when we can have some longer, softer breaths helps us to, I say, remember who we are, to come back into ourselves. Exhaling back to center. This time you will take your left foot and bring it into the thigh and let your left knee come out. So on this side, mine stays up a little bit higher. I'm going to grab a block for some support. Keep the straight leg foot flexed. Adjust the belly. We're going to come forward. So you might want to move the belly more towards center. We'll inhale our arms up, really reaching. So think of the rib cage moving up away from the hips. And you're going to just come forward any amount. And it might not be very much. So just place your hands wherever feels comfortable. Head stays in line with the spine. And you can just breathe here. Nice and easy. Keep the gaze soft or eyes closed. See if you can focus and feel the breath in the belly. Just this welcoming place coming back to yourself. Next inhalation, let yourself come up. Be gentle with this knee as you bring it up. You can straighten this leg. And then we'll do the second side. So once again, adjusting the belly. You can even take the knee out and kind of pull the belly in. What is flexed on the straight leg? We'll inhale up. Exhale, twisting. Breathe. Feel the belly and the thigh having contact with each other. Feel the breath. Closing the eyes if that feels okay. Letting this contact of the belly with the thigh be an anchor, place inviting you back home. And exhale back to center. And we'll let this knee open. As you can see on this side, my knee goes easily down. We're often have asymmetry, and that is very, very common. So no need to worry about it. Just support where you need. So a block if you need that on this side. Again, the belly, we can kind of manipulate it. So there's room to come forward. We inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward. Slow, steady breaths. Inhale, coming back up to center. Gentle, bring your leg up. Take both legs in front of you. Go ahead and wiggle the feet a little bit, giving the legs some movement. You can even get the hips going with that. And then we're going to bring both feet in so that the feet are pressing into each other. And you could do with some blocks on either side of the feet, knees rather. Especially if you're up on a bolster like I am. Just adjust yourself. Let this help to open up the hips a little bit. We also want to really feel into the seat, the contact that the feet have with each other. So press them, not super strong, but just a little bit in toward each other. Hands can be on the knees. And then we're just going to start to make first very small circles with the hips. Then they can start to get bigger. And we can even add like a little bit of cat-cow here. So as you come back, you can kind of pull the belly in. And as you come forward, you can let the chest come out. It's just like that. So continue moving like this. Or a few more times, you can let the shoulders get into this movement. Having some gentle movement to let go of the tension that can really be built up in our body when we are caregivers. And caregivers who perhaps are the main or only caregiver, there's a lot happening there. Okay, then we'll come back to center and begin on the second side. And we're going to start with smaller circles. Moving the hips and the pelvis. And then these can get bigger, adding that little drawing in of the belly in the back, just coming forward. Nice and gentle here. Good, then make your way back to center. And then let's interlace the fingers, and you're going to keep your arms as if they're surrounding kind of a beach ball. So they're in that shape. And you can imagine that there's maybe like a big pot, right? About the size of this. So we would be scraping kind of the edges of the pot. So we'll go over to the right and then come back close to your body and then out again, making this big circle with the arms. My teacher used to call it stirring the pot. And this is always a good way to kind of gauge any tension that you might feel in your neck or shoulders. And it helps to alleviate that. And we can remember that that is where we carry our daily stress. So any type of movement for the neck and shoulders daily is helpful in not letting that stress accumulate. Okay, and let's switch directions. Thanks, everyone. Back through center, release the hands. You can see how it feels for the hands to be open and up toward the sky right now. And then if that is not feeling that great, you can press the palms down toward the thigh or the knee. Sometimes that can help bring more of a sense of grounding. Right here in this posture, let's do about 3 cycles of breath with that extended exhalation. Every time you exhale, think of yourself being really rooted to the ground. Coming back into yourself. For just these next few breath cycles. After the next exhale, let your breath come back to its natural rhythm. Gently come out to both sides of the legs, extend the legs. You can keep the knees bent if you want to here, or straighten them. And just roll side to side a little bit. Okay, so let's take the blocks and set those to the side. We'll also set the bolster to the side and put the blankets. We're going to come to lying on our backs. So the blanket can be used for underneath your head for some support. So fold that in a way that you prefer. Remember to make sure that the blanket is also supporting your neck. So typically we don't like the shoulders to be on the blanket. We just want the blanket to be on your neck and your head. Let yourself come back. Keep the knees bent to start. Find a place that you feel comfortable, and we're just going to pause here. Come back to those slow, long breaths. Press your feet into the earth, but also notice how your arms are touching the earth. Your shoulder blades now have support underneath them. The hips are supported. You can just think of all of those places as being nice and stable, perhaps having a sense of heaviness. And once again, bringing you back home. And then we'll take the right knee and bring that in toward the chest. And this too, you might want to adjust the belly. You can have either one hand or both behind the right thigh. The knee, the left leg rather, can stay bent, or you can extend it as long as that is okay for your back. And we're just going to keep drawing the right knee into the chest. As you notice the rise and fall of the belly and how that feels against the thigh. Letting your breath once more kind of ease your mind and bring it back into the present moment. And then take your left hand out to the left and start to make some circles with your right knee. It can help to kind of lubricate the hip joint here by making some circles. Take your time, there's no hurry. And then whichever direction you're going in, let's go in the second direction. And then bring that knee back in toward the chest. Take 2 more long, slow breaths here. And we'll gently release that right foot down. And then bring the left knee in, adjusting the belly as you need. Extend the right foot, or leg rather. Making sure that you don't have any back tightness or pain here. Once more, those long, deep breaths. Keeping your awareness where the belly and the thigh meet, to the sensations through each inhale and exhale. Letting your mind use this place as a place to become centered, to focus on, releasing any other thoughts for right now. And extending the right arm out, starting to make some circles with the knee, creating some movement in the hip joints. The hips are another area that carry stress for us. Important to move our joints as much as we can. Second direction. And then hugging that knee back into the chest for 2 more long, slow breaths. And then releasing when you're ready. Let's roll over to your side and come back up to a seat. I'm going to set up for a restorative posture here. So find your blocks and place one block on the medium height and the other block on the flat height, and leave some space in between, I don't know, 3 inches or so. You can always adjust it once you get there. Place your bolster on these blocks or your pillow or whatever you have. I like to have a blanket at the top of the bolster for this, and this can be helpful if you are have a larger chest, because it gives you some room for your chest to have space and your head is not falling down. So for this one, whatever side you're on that you can see me, you're going to take your hip next to the bolster. It's not going to be on the bolster, just right next to it. And the legs can find a place that they feel comfortable. I like to just bring whichever leg is furthest away back behind me, and the other leg kind of tucked in. So we're going to twist onto this bolster. We're really going to take our time doing it, because as we are going to twist, you want to keep the length in your spine. So when your hand is on the bolster, press yourself up and think of that same lift in the rib cage, and then twist toward the bolster. Okay, so remember, you're not on it, right next to it. One hand goes to either side, and you start to kind of walk yourself forward, and the blanket comes down and you can rest your head. Take a long breath here. Sometimes it will take a couple of cycles of breath for you to be able to release more fully. If this is too low, your setup, you can come out of this and make your blocks a little bit taller. So once you get settled, once more, close your eyes. And you're going to come to that longer breath. Really start to sense into the bolster, the earth beneath you. Every time you exhale, just imagine that your body is able to just release a little bit more, a little bit more. Just be in these next few minutes of rest here. If this is a newer posture for you, give your body some time to adjust. Welcome any sensations that are arising. Finding the steadiness in your breath. We'll be here for about another 30 seconds to a minute. To really stay present here. Allowing yourself this time. Time to remember. Remember who you are. Remember the wisdom inside of you. Next time you come to an inhalation, bring the arms back a little bit. Press the fingers in your hands into the ground. Gently press yourself up. Keep your gaze nice and low. And then as you come up, you'll switch to the second side. I'm going to switch my props just so you can see me better, but you'll just switch to the second side. Shifting the hips. And it's the same process on this side to get into the pose. So the hips are next to the bolster. You adjust your legs to a place that's comfortable. Press into the support of the bolster so you can create that space, and then turn the belly to the bolster. Walk the hands out. Gaze goes in the same direction as the knees. And once more, coming into the breath. You might be noticing the difference in sides. And just remembering that that is very common. Find that extended exhale again. Breathe. Allow the ground, the support of the bolster, to draw you more deeply into yourself, into relaxation. And the next time you inhale, press the hands into the earth. Gently bring yourself up. Okay. So there's a couple of options here. You can keep your setup as it is. I just need to adjust mine a little bit. And we can use the bolster like this for Shavasana to come into a supported Baddha Konasana, or you can come into the Shavasana of your choice today for your practice. If you're going to come into this Baddha Konasana, it's helpful to have something to support you under your knees. And I'm going to show you how to do that with just an extra blanket because the blocks are being used under the bolster. So you can take a blanket, have it out so it's a little bit longer, and then you're going to roll it. It doesn't need to be rolled in any special way or super tight or anything like that. You just want it to be in a roll. Okay, and then place that right in front of you as you turn around. So remember, for Baddha Konasana, the bolster is supporting you, but you're not sitting on it. Okay, so it's there for support, and kind of depending on just your body, you're going to decide like how far away feels good for you. But before you go down, place your legs together and take the blanket and put it over your feet, and then take these ends or tails of the blanket and place them underneath your leg. I like to have it all the way into the hip, or I guess it's the upper thigh, really, but that feels most supportive to me. So you can see where that feels good to you. And then just gently let yourself come back. Remember to have some support under your head if that feels good. And you might need to adjust that. Like put it in a roll, whatever you need to be comfortable. Make sure that you're warm enough. So grab a little blanket if you need to. In this pose, the arms just rest down to the side. You can keep the palms up. If your sleeves are long enough, you can put them over the palms. Sometimes that helps with grounding, or just kind of tuck them under where the blanket is. Remembering the intention to come back home, to feel grounded, and remembering yourself, especially if that caregiver role is really big for you right now. And so those longer, slower breaths to settle in. And then you may notice that the more settled and relaxed you feel, that your breath finds its way back to its natural rhythm. And you can just let that happen, knowing that if the mind becomes activated again, you can use the tool of the long, slow breath. You can bring some smooth, soft heaviness to the forehead, especially that little space between the eyebrows. Allowing that to soften. And just imagine kind of smoothing out that spot on the little baby. And allowing that sensation to translate to yourself. All those little eye muscles are relaxed. The upper and lower jaw can release from each other. And just take a moment to see if your chin is up more toward the sky. You can bring it down just a little bit, reminding you to come back in. Taking your attention to the heart center. Letting the rise and fall of the breath be nourishing to the heart center. Nourishing the love that you have for yourself, the love that you have for others. Letting the breath envelop the heart center for the next couple of cycles. And let your awareness slowly move down the arms. And just imagine the arms becoming heavier. They let go of any tension. The arms become heavy. Might notice that the shoulder blades and the back body release a little bit. And then from the belly and that rise and fall of breath in the belly, imagine a heavy sensation moving from the belly down both legs, through the soles of the feet, all the way through the tips of the toes. The legs are heavy and relaxed. And give yourself this next few minutes of silence as a gift. A gift to remember the core of you, the wise you, the intuitive you that is always there. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with peace. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with peace. May I live with ease. Gently, maybe with the support of the hands, bring the knees together. And then pause here. You might like to let the knees sway a little bit side to side. Maybe the head just gently moves side to side. Fingers. It might feel good to stretch the arms up and even cross the arms over yourself as if you're giving yourself a hug and a little squeeze. And we'll engage the abdomen, use the arms coming up into a comfortable seat. Hands to the thighs or knees pressing a little bit. 2 long inhalations and exhalations here. And then pressing the palms together at heart center. Use this as an acknowledgement to yourself. That you've made the time to be here. That you've made the time to come back home. And when you're ready, you can release the hands. Thank you.